Hey, what's happening? It's Bill Smith. This is a QAnon update, and it's going to be a really great conversation to have with some of you because a lot of you have been wondering about what the heck is going to happen with the Federal Reserve. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff in here that's been posted in the last 12 hours. It's not just this post I'm going to show you. Today's July 25th. There's been more Q posts this morning. It's about the same stuff. So we got a theme here. I'm going to start covering the Federal Reserve and some background on that. Now, I don't want to bore you with the details. Everybody knows when it was started. It was back in like 1913 or something. The same time we got the Federal Reserve, we got the income tax system. So people were born into this world, and you just think income tax is something that you have to pay. You think, oh my God, if you don't pay income tax, how will we pay for the roads? How will we build bridges and water pipelines and infrastructure? Well, you know, for 150 years, we did fine without the income tax. We built roads, we built all that stuff. We did it with business tax. So you were taxed on business, not earnings. So now we live in a world where you get taxed on soda, you get taxed on water consumption, you're taxed on gasoline purchases, you're taxed on sin taxes. It's an extra tax over what you already paid on the purchase tax or the sales tax. You got to pay extra if you buy alcohol, wine, tobacco. I mean, there's taxes everywhere. There's no getting away from it. And it's designed for a reason. Okay? You think the government's not borrowing money from itself? Money's not even real, man. It's not backed by anything. So I try not to get too deep into this conversation because at the end, there's a system set up, right? So if you say money's fake, yeah, it's fake, but it's backed by a promise by the U.S. government. We need some sort of central bank. It does serve a purpose, all right? It's just you would give, no matter what kind of central bank you have, you're going to give them so much power, right? They can just rule over you. So that's the system we've been living in for the last 100 years. 105 years. The interesting thing is that the fall of the Ottoman Empire, so the fall of the Middle East, the creation of the Federal Reserve, and the start of World War I all occurred within 2 or 3 years of each other. So this stuff is all linked. It's all connected. Now this link right here, this is post 1694, July 24th, 2018. It's a CNBC article. It's titled, "Trump is Poised to Take Control of the Federal Reserve." And this is it right here. Now, this is from an interview that not many people saw. If you want some really good information, I like the Conservative Treehouse. Okay, they actually had an article about this back on the 20th, I think, where they showed this entire interview. Now, this interview did not get mainstream play. Nobody showed the interview. No one used the sound bites from this interview over and over. And it's because if you go watch it, it's a good interview. Okay? It's hard to disagree with what Trump is saying in that interview. I can't cover the whole thing. It's about 8 to 10 minutes long, I think. I'll leave a link. You can go watch it yourself. I don't want to waste your time. Okay, but this specific article says that President Donald Trump has multiple reasons as to why he should take control of the Federal Reserve. First, he can do this. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve is required to have 7 members. It only has 3. And 2 of the current governors were put into their position by President Trump. 2 more have been nominated by the President and are awaiting confirmation by the Senate. After these 2 are put on the Fed's board, the President will then nominate 2 more. In essence, it's possible that 6 of the 7 board members will be put into place by Trump. So Trump is going to be able to stack 6 of the 7 people on the Federal Reserve. Listen to that. That's gigantic. That's huge. Now, some of the things that kind of stand out to me is that I think the Board of Governors right now only has 3 members. Current members. We'll take a look at those here in a second. But before then, it only had 5 under Obama, and it's required to have 7. So why did they never fill those other positions? Is it just that it's easier to control with 5 people than it is 7 people? I don't know. Okay, now, obviously, we're just going to state the obvious here. Okay, Jews control the Federal Reserve. They do. And they have for a while, and everybody knows it. And the Rothschilds own central banking throughout the world. Nobody knows who owns the Federal Reserve. Now, the interesting thing is that the Federal Reserve, you think, oh, it's a government thing. You know, the United States, they print our money. Of course it's a government institution. Yeah, it's not. It's a private bank. It's just like 7-Eleven. It's like the ATM in 7-Eleven or a U.S. bank. Okay, it's a private company. It's a private organization, and nobody knows who owns it. So supposedly it's owned by 13, families, royal bloodline stuff. There's not a lot of great information out there about who owns the Federal Reserve. Now, this post was from back in 2008. So this is right when Obama was elected. So this is old stuff, okay? But it talks about these 5 people that were the head of the Federal Reserve. And out of the 5 of them, all 5 were Jewish. You had Ben Bernanke, Donald Cohn, Kevin Marsh, Randall Cosner, and Frederick Mishkin. So Bernanke, Cohn, Warsh, Cosner, and Mishkin. Those are Jewish last names. Those are Jewish people. Jews occupied all 5 of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Now that's really weird because Jews only make up about 2% of the U.S. population. So go figure. Huh? That seems weird, right? The other thing that seems weird is that this is the year we elected Barack Obama back in 2008. So everybody's all about, we need to have minorities need to represent everything. Okay, you got to have a black guy, you got to have an Indian woman, you got to have a Chinese lady, you got to have a Hispanic Mexican person. You have to have all these people for some reason, okay? Even if their cultural background does not lend itself well to monetary policy. Like, have you been to Mexico? You ever been to India? You think these are bastions of economic thought? Now, I'll agree. Number one, man, Jews are good with money. Everybody knows it. Okay, they invented the federal banking system. They invented central banking. I think Jews they owned the Bank of England. Rothschilds took that over. And I don't know if you knew this, but they're the ones that established the first corporate entity, which I think was the Dutch East India Trading Company. And I think that was started it was a hand-in-hand shake between the Rothschilds, central banking, and the royal family. So there's lots of stuff here, man. It goes way back. It's not just about the Federal Reserve. Monetary systems. The problem with giving Jews full control over these monetary systems over Western nations is they're not going to do what's best for the people in those Western nations. They're going to do what's best for Israel and Jewish culture, Jewish genetics. Now, one of the interesting things that I found was I went through Wikipedia and I looked at a bunch of these people. I spent some time. And every time, man, in the first sentence it says, born to a Jewish family, mother was Jewish, father was Jewish, whatever. When you see a white person or just someone who's non-Jewish, it doesn't say anything about them being born into any kind of family. It just says, this is who they are, gives a little bit of background about them. But the Jews, they really point out on Wikipedia. So I found that to be interesting. I don't know who's editing. Again, this is 10 years old, but, we had Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen's a Jew. She's the head of the Federal Reserve. She just stepped down last year. So Trump cleaned the Jews out of the Federal Reserve. Now, that's just the top level. Okay, there are Federal Reserve district banks. There's 12 of them. Don't you think that's weird? There's 12. Like, why not 10 or 13? Why 12? Makes me think of the 12 apostles. I'm wondering if 12 is some kind of magic number. Just a thought, okay? But out of the 12 district banks, 9 of the 12 of the heads of those were Jewish. So Jews in 2008, Jews occupied 100% of the top level of the Federal Reserve, and they occupied 75% of the heads of all the regional banks. How is that possible? How is that possible? Are you telling me that you can't find anybody who went to Harvard that's just not Jewish to head these things up? I mean, there are ridiculous smart people who invest. Warren Buffett's not Jewish, right? He's one of the richest men in the world. I mean, it's business, not monetary policy, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand. So I'm just kind of tossing this out there. Okay, Q's starting to cover it, so I'm going to start unloading on this stuff. Most people know where I stand on these subjects. You know, I don't really have to dig too deep. But everything I just told you, here's more to say it. So he reposts the same thing. Then here's another one. Now, in this interview, he was talking about them raising rates on him. And he's saying, look, we're fighting a worldwide war on monetary policy. We drop tax rates, and then China drops their tax rates. You know, and our market started to go up, so then China and the European Union started devaluing their currency. Now, the European banks are inside the same banking system that the Federal Reserve belongs to. So it's extremely likely that they would work to try to offset Trump's global policies by working in tandem to hamstring the U.S. Why would they not? You know, they're owned by the same people. They're run by the same organizations. No one even knows who owns the Federal Reserve. It's not even a federal or a reserve. It is a private bank. So Trump's been saying, look, I don't want these increases in these lending rates, you know. You got to stop working against us. Now the Q post right here comes into view right here. It says 2 + 2 confirmations. So they're doing 2 confirmations right now, and then as soon as they're done with those, they're going to do 2 more. It says they're going to do them fast, and we will never be under their control. Ever again. We will never again be under their control. And that is the control of the central banking unit. This is insane, okay? This is crazy. If this happens, it'll be the first time in 100 years when we have been free from like economic tyranny, economic control. And Jews understand the lending class, they understand the merchant class more than anything. That's how they rose to power in the world. They understand the power of the merchant class. This is why you're not allowed to boycott Israel. You're not allowed to boycott Israel. There's laws against it in some countries. I think the UK had a big thing with it. I think it's also illegal to boycott them in Georgia now for some reason. Don't hold me to that last one, but I read something about that recently too. But I know for a fact it's illegal in the UK. They passed laws against it. Can't boycott Israel. It's for a reason. Jews understand economic control. Okay? They're the ones that invented it. So if we're rolling back all these policies, great for us. Okay, here's some notes I took. So here's the people that Trump has already put on there. I think this Lel Bernard, she was a leftover. She wasn't appointed, but she's white, and she was born in Germany. She's a German expatriate, but a U.S. citizen. You got this guy named Randall K. Carls, and he's white, and he used to work at the Carlyle Group. He's mentioned in the Paradise Papers, by the way. And then you got this guy named Jerome H. Powell, and he's white, and he's a World War II veteran. And I think that's important, okay? Supposedly this guy's also worth like $128 million, Jerome Powell. Now, we got rid of Janet Yellen. She was the head. So it says on November 2nd, 2017, Trump nominated Jerome Powell, that white World War II veteran, to succeed Yellen when her term ends February 3rd, 2018. So she's been out since February 3rd. They did not renominate her to lead it. Yellen subsequently announced she would leave the Federal Reserve Board of Governors at the end of her term as chair. So they can be on the board. They can be promoted to chair. I think one guy was on the board for like 27 years. So these people are on there for a long time. Alan Greenspan's name comes back up. We haven't heard him in a while, but he was pretty instrumental. And Paul Volcker, you're probably going to hear that name a couple more times. He was the head of the Fed back in the 80s. This is important. I'll cover this in a separate video because I didn't want to jump on this bandwagon until I got some Q. Until next time, this is Bill Smith. Thanks for watching.